The Dutch response to COVID, giving new meaning to the term, just act normal. Greg Shapiro here, the American Netherlander, and this past week was Dutch-American Friendship Day, the day that all U.S. adults are now eligible for the COVID vaccine, and the Dutch government was like, oh, COVID vaccines, we should get some of those. According to Prime Minister Mark Rutte, a quarter of all Dutch adults have now been vaccinated, and another quarter of all Dutch adults have already had COVID. So added up together, that is half an excuse for not vaccinating people. And now, with COVID cases rising to their highest levels in months, the Dutch government is preparing to relax the Dutch lockdown rules before they inevitably reverse themselves due to the threats of variants such as the Indian variant and the British variant, which, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to use that term, the Boris virus. How can the Dutch COVID response be so all over the place? Well, it helps to have some background knowledge of Dutch office culture. From my book, The American Netherlander, here are 3 ways Dutch office politics are different. Number 1, Theyre Flat. Most countries are rather hierarchical. The boss says it and you do it. Not so much with the Dutch. Dutch office culture is modeled on the Dutch landscape, which is to say, it is flat. Flat as a pannenkoek. This country is so flat that even a town called Seven Mountains is actually below sea level. When Moses parted the waves and marched his people across the seabed to safety, the Dutch ones were the ones hanging back, like, nah, you will go on ahead. This looks good. We'll just stay here. We'll put up some dikes. We'll dig some canals. Gezellig. The Netherlands is so non-hierarchical, the Prime Minister arrives to work. How? By bike. So when people write graffiti saying, Corona policy is state terror, or Mark Rutte is a Nazi fascist, I'm like, I'm sorry, are we talking about the same guy? The guy who, when he spills his coffee on the way into work, stops and cleans up his own mess while cleaning crews point and laugh at him? I mean, yes, there are plenty of Corona lockdown rules, but it's not exactly fascism. I mean, for one thing, fascists generally have better fashion sense. If this was a police state, they would say enforce the rules, whereas in the Netherlands, you're supposed to stay inside unless, it's a really nice day. Download this app that can track COVID unless, you don't want to. And for months, it was like, you should wear a mask in the supermarket. I mean, it's not required. It's just a suggestion. And meanwhile, the Prime Minister keeps biking to work. I mean, maybe that's why he doesn't mind putting so many people at risk from COVID. They were the slow ones in front of him on the bike path. 2, they're stuck in the middle. In the Netherlands, it's all about equality. Everyone gets to be equal. Everyone gets to be their own boss. And everyone gets a universal veto over every decision. Since Dutch meetings are so non-hierarchical, that means everyone gets to debate everything. Dutch office emails are like, I know what we agreed at the meeting, but I've had some different thoughts about the meeting since the meeting, so I think we should have another meeting to make sure everyone still agrees with the meeting, and then a follow-up meeting to change what we agreed at the meeting. And that email was written by the intern who's only been working there for 2 weeks. The Netherlands is famous for its polder model. Polder, as in land that was formerly underwater. And the polder model is this uniquely communal way of thinking by which the Dutch managed to cooperate and keep their feet dry. It was the original drain the swamp. Now, part of the obsession with keeping everything flat is that when someone wants to build something that kind of sticks out, then it's time to play the game that Dutch people call lobsters in a basket. When one person tries to climb out of the basket, the others gang up to drag him back down. In the Netherlands, we love deciding by consensus. There's no such thing as making a decision. No, it's taking a decision. Taking it from where? Most often from Germany. So when a crisis calls for something bolder, the Dutch come through with something polder. When we need strong leadership, Dutch model is kind of like, the middle of the road. This is good. We can kick the can down the road and we're right in the middle. For example, India's COVID cases are off the charts. Should we ban flights from India? For a while it was like, nah, let's not be too extreme. Should we make sure that every healthcare worker is vaccinated? Nah, let's not do anything too drastic. Shouldn't we try to be vaccinating everyone as soon as possible? Or maybe just let everyone get COVID because that develops immunity. Maybe. We think. Basically, nothing has changed since a year ago when Mark Rutte made his big COVID speech. Krijg de corona, but not all at once. 3, they're bipolar. It was a French manager who once said, whereas for most cultures, a decision is the end of the discussion, for the Dutch, it's just the beginning. Dutch office culture is, to me, based on paradox. How can a meeting start off so productively and yet end so differently? In the Netherlands, there will be no agreement on an idea. Then they'll debate everything until they have complete consensus, and then the next day they'll change their minds and do something totally different. No wonder the Dutch love herring so much. They flip-flop like a dying fish. We're closing the coffee shops.
Okay, coffee shops can reopen for takeaways and deliveries.
You cannot book a vacation in a foreign country.
Unless it's to Curacao, where the travel ban does not apply.
And you cannot have guests at your wedding.
Nah, I guess now you can, because the Minister of Justice was caught doing that same thing himself.
But the good news about the flip-flopping is that sometimes they're not afraid to reverse clearly bad decisions. We should stop with AstraZeneca. Well, wait, no, we should keep going. We should stop with Johnson & Johnson. No, keep going. You know that company we paid €1 billion to help us reopen safely, even though they're not sharing any of their data with the scientific community? We should celebrate the rising COVID cases with an outdoor festival for 10,000 people, 400 meters from a hospital where all the beds are full. Okay, maybe we shouldn't do that. Soon Dutch leaders might be like, we should not be afraid to make unpopular choices. We should make COVID testing mandatory and free. And most of all, we should make every government employee a vaccine technician until every adult who wants a vaccine can get a vaccine. Of, doe normaal.
Well, how did I do? Any feedback? Let me know in the comments below. And if you subscribe, I will smile.